करेंगे, ये ऐसा कर रहा है इसलिए ये मैं भी ऐसा ही करूंगा, उनके घर में ये चीजें हैं इसलिए मेरे घर में भी ये होनी चाहिए, उनका बेटा जो कि कोटा में जाकर के और बंसल में कोचिंग ले रहा है तो मेरा बेटा भी जाना चाहिए। ये सब अंधानु कर। मेरे अपने व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने के लिए मुझे अपनी योग्यता, मेरी अपनी जो प्रोबेबिलिटी है और पॉसिबिलिटीज है, मुझे उनको देखना चाहिए। सर्कमस्टेंसेस क्या है और लोग किस दिशा में जा रहे हैं, मैं सिर्फ उस चीज को जानूं और अपनी उस क्षमता के अनुसार उस रास्ते पर अपने आप को भी ले जाऊं तो अपने जीवन का विकास हो सकता है। देखा देखी कितने दिन तक चलिएगा, दूसरे की वैशाखी लेकर कितने दिन चलिएगा, अपने पैर पर खड़े होना भी तो सीखना पड़ेगा। अपने व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने के लिए हम जो अपने जीवन को अच्छा बना चुके हैं या बनाने में लगे हैं, उनसे प्रेरणा लें और देखा देखी से बचें। जब कहीं भी हमें अपने से कोई अधिक योग्य व्यक्ति दिखाई पड़े तो उससे ईर्ष्या न करें। हम उसके गुणों को सहन नहीं कर पाते हैं, ये हमारी बहुत बड़ी कमजोरी है। जिस व्यक्ति को अपना व्यक्तित्व ऊंचा उठाना है वो हमेशा दूसरे के श्रेष्ठ व्यक्तित्व की प्रशंसा ही करेगा, उससे ईर्ष्या नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि एवरी पर्सन इज यूनिक। यहां हर व्यक्ति अपने आप में बहुत इंडिविजुअल और बहुत कहना चाहिए अद्वितीय है। वी कांट कंपेयर, हम एक दूसरे को कंपेयर नहीं कर सकते। एक अगर किसी नाटक में कोई नायक है तो कोई विदूषक भी है। विदूषक नायक नहीं हो सकता, नायक विदूषक का काम नहीं कर सकता। विदूषक मतलब कॉमेडियन। तो जो कॉमेडियन है उसकी अपनी योग्यता है, ये कोई ना समझे कि उसकी इस नाटक में जरूरत नहीं है, उसकी अपनी इंपॉर्टेंस है। एक स्वीपर जो कि सुबह से झाड़ू लगाता है या हमारे कमरे में झाड़ू पोछा करता है, उसकी भी उतनी इंपॉर्टेंस है जितनी की उस जगह बैठ करके साहबी करने वाले की कीमत है। ये व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने के लिए हमारे अंदर विचार होना चाहिए। हम अपने को ना बहुत दीनहीन माने और ना अपने को बहुत ऊंचा माने। ये सुपीरियरिटी और इंफीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स दोनों से हमें मुक्त होना पड़ेगा, तब जाकर के हमारा व्यक्तित्व ऊंचा उठेगा। या तो हम छोटे छोटे से कामों को करके अपने को बहुत दीनहीन मानते हैं, कह रहे वाह मैं झाड़ू लगाने का काम करूं तो मैं बहुत छोटा हो जाऊंगा, मैंने तो बीए किया और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से किया और मैं एक जरा सी 2000 पट्टी की नौकरी करूं, नहीं मैं बनूंगा तो साहब बनूंगा। ये जो हमारा जो व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने का जो ढंग है वो ढंग हमें बदलना पड़ेगा। हमें देखना पड़ेगा कि हम अपने जीवन में जहां है वहां क्या बेहतर कर सकते हैं, तब जाकर के हमारा व्यक्तित्व ऊंचा उठ सकेगा। आज जो आने वाली पीढ़ी है उसके साथ यही मुश्किल है, वो अपने व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने के लिए या तो दूसरे के देखा देखी और या फिर दूसरे से ईर्ष्या करके और अपने भीतर हीनता या उच्चता की ग्रंथि बना लेते हैं। हम तो कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, हमारी तो क्षमता ही नहीं है। वो देखो वो लोगों ने कितना कितना, वो तो इंग्लिश मीडियम में पढ़ते हैं, उनसे तो बढ़िया से इंग्लिश बोलते आती, मेरे से तो कुछ आती नहीं, और अपने मन में भीतर भीतर और कॉन्फिडेंस अपना लूज कर लिया। अब हम अपने व्यक्तित्व को दीनहीन समझने लगे, या फिर मैं तो सबसे होशियार हूं, मैं तो बहुत पढ़ा लिखा हूं, मैं तो बहुत बड़े इंस्टीट्यूट से निकला हूं, एजुकेशन करके तुम सब क्या समझते हो, मैं तो बहुत होशियार हूं। ऐसे जो है सुपीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स, ये जो हमारे भीतर अहंकार या दीनता आ जाती है, वो हमारे व्यक्तित्व को और हमारे जीवन को परिष्कृत करने में सबसे ज्यादा बाधक है। और ये इन दोनों का बैलेंस होना चाहिए। व्यक्ति को अपनी कमजोरियां मालूम होनी चाहिए, व्यक्ति को अपनी अच्छाइयां मालूम होनी चाहिए कि मेरे भीतर ये बहुत अच्छी चीज है, जो चीज मेरे अच्छी है उसका मुझे अहंकार नहीं करना है, उसे तो और डेवलप करना है मुझे, और जो चीज मेरे भीतर कमी है मुझे उस कमी को दूर करना है। उसके लिए उस कमी को लेकर के मुझे दीनहीन और अपराध बोध से ग्रसित नहीं होना। ये जो बच्चों के सम्मान वाली बात आई है, मैं क्यों इस तरफ ज्यादा कंसंट्रेट करता हूं? मुझे हमेशा जब भी मैं देखता था, बच्चे लोगों से पूछता हूं किस क्लास में पढ़ रहे हो, फर्स्ट ईयर में हूं, बीएससी कर रहा हूं, ऐसा पूछता हूं तो बताते हैं अच्छा तो फिर आपने 12th किया, 12th काहे से, बायो से किया था, अच्छा फिर आप बीएससी क्यों कर रहे हैं? वो मेरा पीएमटी में सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ, सिर नीचा होगा। तो क्या कोई पाप कर लिया आपने जो आपको सिर नीचा करना पड़े कि पीएमटी में सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ, पीटी में सिलेक्शन नहीं हुआ तो आपका सिर नीचा हो गया? ये मुझे सबसे ज्यादा दुखदाई लगता था, आज भी लगता है। सिर्फ इस वजह से जो है उन बच्चों के भीतर ये हीनता ना आ जावे, और ना ही उन बच्चों के भीतर कि वे कभी ऊंचे नहीं उठ सकते हैं ये बात ना आ जावे। इस बात को दूर करने के लिए और ये मार्ग अपनाना पड़ा कि उन्हें इंस्पायर करें, उन्हें एडमिरेशन उनके भीतर आए, उनकी प्रशंसा से वे अपने जीवन को बहुत ऊंचा उठा सके, उनकी हम पीठ थपथपाएं कि नहीं तुम असफल नहीं हो, और असफल भी हो अगर तो सफलता तुम्हारे लिए हासिल हो सकती है, तुम थोड़े से प्रयत्न करो। आज वर्तमान में हम अपने व्यक्तित्व को ऊंचा उठाने के लिए अगर इस छोटी सी चीज को अपना लें कि मेरे भीतर की कमियों के लिए मुझे दीनहीन होकर बैठ नहीं जाना है, मुझे उन कमियों को दूर करना है और मेरी अच्छाइयों को मुझे और अधिक बढ़ाना है, उनका अहंकार नहीं करना है।
Um, Hello, hi everyone. My name is Shoaib Khan. Can you confirm if you can hear me clearly? Hello, Yugandhar ji, कैसे हैं आप?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Abhishek, Shoaib, thanks for joining us. Before we hand over to you, let me try give a quick introduction. And just before we go there, what we wanted to show through that clip is the philosophy that Munishi shared. Like each one has their own unique capabilities, and that's where we are trying to do a whole series. And of course, what he mentioned is we need to look into our own potentials, our own shortcomings, and then adapt accordingly. So that was the brief about the message from Monisha. Of course, I'm not able to convey all of it. Now let's try and move on into the main session. Both Abhishek and Shoaib have joined us. Let me give a quick introduction about them. So Abhishek is a tech pioneer. That's how he introduces himself. The World Economic Forum. He's been a serial entrepreneur per se. He's been a founder and CEO of IBC Media, founder and CEO of Nitro Network, Gulfstream Aerospace. He has worked with. He's also worked with the Blackstone Group, which is one of the largest investment firms. And in terms of education, he's an MBA from Harvard Business School. So welcome, Abhishek. And Shoaib, again, a similar, very profound profile. So Shoaib is the founder of O Slash. He's also one of the very well-known tech guys. So apart from being the co-founder and CTO of O Slash, he's also worked with Tarzan Skills, which he continues to work with, Alpine Info Solutions, AVP Engineering. So basically, all in all, two guys with great profiles, and we would like to hear from both of you. Abhishek and Shoaib, I was just reading through the chats. The questions are pretty much online with what we would expect on the topic. What is AI? How can I use it towards bettering my career? Or somebody also asked, they are from a biotech background. So how does AI apply there? Something like that. So I think overall, the questions or your session probably should be able to cover all of that. So those are the questions. And if something comes in between, we will take it up. In general, the way we would do this is, I think I would hand over to you for about 20 minutes of your expert session, and then probably have a more interactive Q&A with the students. Either we pick up from chat or direct questions. So over to you, Shoaib and Abhi.
Yeah, and if it's like 30 minutes, also 30, 35 minutes, fine. Abhishek,
Sure.
however you want to sort of go about.
All right.
So, Shoaib, why don't you sort of kick off, and
Okay.
maybe then we can give a quick framework of how kids should think about the careers, and how do they think about ideas in the future. But why don't you kick off on about AI and answer, I guess, if you have any questions already, or just give a framework on how to think about AI and what AI is and where the industry is going. And then maybe we can talk a little bit about what the students need to do to think about careers generally and specific to AI. How about, what do you think?
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. Shall I also present? I've just prepared a few slides. I thought that might be.
Sure. No, absolutely. Take it away.
So let me just share my screen. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, visible. Yeah.
Awesome. So feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast or if I'm covering something that might not be very clear. The way that I thought I'll structure this is, again, I'm assuming not everybody might be fully familiar. So I thought I'll talk a little bit about what AI is doing today, briefly about how it works, and then move on to applications and real world implications, both now and in the future. So to start with, I'd say, I mean, if you're talking about the future of technology in AI, I'd say it's almost here. It's pretty much almost here. And if you see a lot of what's going on right now, you can see that, you know, it's creating art which you really can't distinguish from real art, especially when it comes to abstract art or paintings and things like that. It can also write essays, and I mean, a lot of the students over here will relate that students are also using that. In fact, universities are also trying to figure out, you know, has a student written this or has AI generated this? So we're already there. And where it gets a little more interesting is it's also now creating at least web pages and simpler things with fully functional code. And where it can get a little bit more serious is things like, for example, it can listen to and imitate your voice. And we know that it's also able to generate photographs of real people and situations which are not really real. So it can go from useful to something as dangerous as that. Now, powering all of this is what's called generative AI. And it's called generative because it's able to generate new content. And it's also multimodal. So modal is nothing but a medium, and multimodal means it can generate new content when it comes to text, when it comes to images, when it comes to music. And if you combine images and music, you've got video as well. So essentially, any medium that we interact with, you can have something like this generate content in that medium. Hence, why we call it multimodal. Now, it's able to do that based on the training data. So based on what you feed it, it's able to replicate that. It's able to generate that. And if we go a little bit into how it's able to do that, it uses something called a large language model. Now, for those who are familiar with OpenAI, it's essentially GPT-3 and now GPT-4. It's what's called a large language model. Now, what large language models do is they figure out the importance of different words in a sequence. So training data is nothing but large amounts of data where it could be content saying that, for example, India gained independence in 1947, for example. So it analyzes that and it is able to figure out, okay, India and independence in 1947, these are important words that are coming in a sentence in a particular sequence. And the more and more data like this that you feed it, it's able to start building a context, an understanding of a particular topic. So whenever India is there, it's able to get a sense of what are the words that come after it, what are the important words that it's associated with. And, you know, just like that, there can be different countries, different concepts, different topics. All of this, the more that you feed, the more understanding it starts developing in this manner. Now, the way it does is it breaks down the text that you have into what's called tokens. And I mentioned multimodal previously. So it is also able to break down your images, your sound also into tokens, which it's then able to figure out in what sequence to arrange them. And then it's generative in the sense it learns to predict words. So when you ask it a question, it's essentially predicting based on the words or based on the question and the sequence of words in that question, what should be the answer. And the more data that you give it, the better and better it starts becoming enabled to answer those questions. Now, even though it's fascinating, it does all of this, it does have some limitations. And the number one limitation that will come is what's called a hallucination, where it may tell you things that are not correct, or it may say something that doesn't really make sense. It sounds fine, but when you try to understand it, it doesn't really make any sense. And they can also be factually incorrect. So this can also happen because sometimes when you feed the data, if the data has incorrect information, this has no way of knowing that it's incorrect. It depends on us, and hence it can take that as factually correct. But these are things that are solvable. This is what companies right now are doing, where given a specific domain, and when I mean domain, I mean like if you take computer science, for example, you can make it really, really good when it comes to computer science. If let's say you take biology, somebody asked about that. If you want to make a large language model in the biology domain, you can make it really, really good and accurate in the biology domain. So what can happen is because large language models take everything, sometimes we also use words interchangeably. We might use the same sentence of words in biology to mean one thing. In, let's say, common language, it might mean something else entirely. So the moment you start fine-tuning and go in particular domains, there you start becoming more and more precise and accurate. Now, coming to where is this going to have an impact? So as a general principle, anywhere where there's repetitive work, it's going to impact. It's already impacting. I mean, we are seeing it, in my professional life as well. I'm seeing it impact anything that's repetitive work, and it's going to become more and more. And when I say repetitive work, for those of you who understand, things like customer service, for example, customers might, ask a question, or they might post some issue they're having. So that is more or less repetitive work. Usually, a lot of customers have this similar requirements, and similar answers have to keep going out. So that is something where applications come in. Things like marketing. So because it can generate text, it can generate images, and very soon it can generate really good videos as well. Anything to do with marketing, where you have to talk about a product or a particular feature of your product or anything else that you're doing, all of that is already being generated right now, and it's going to become more and more common. And this is where I personally like this one. Education is where it's also having an impact, and I think it'll have a more impact, where it's almost like having a personal tutor for everyone. Now, in India, we used to like classroom of 30 plus students, and all of us learn, and we don't really get individual attention. But imagine where this AI systems are interacting with students, teaching them things, helping them understand in different ways, and having, you could say, literally unlimited amount of patience, where it's not about you have to do this in 1 hour or understand or learn this in 2 hours. It's able to break things down, explain in different mediums. Imagine it's also able to make videos to help you understand the concept that you're learning. So I think that's where it's already headed, and it's going to get, I think, better when it comes to education if done properly. And especially, I think with translation services, language hopefully will not be a barrier. So it's not like somebody needs to know English to be able to get like a really good education through this. I mean, imagine if somebody makes an interface where it can start speaking in Telugu, for example, or Kannada, or Tamil, or Hindi, or any other language. So you will not have folks losing out on knowledge because of a language barrier. And essentially, just to summarize again, any roles where there is generation of text and images, I feel that is where it's going to hit. And it's also moving towards audiovisual right now quite rapidly. So right now it's just text and images, but very soon, like entire videos, I think will also be generated. The future that we are heading into, I believe, is where it'll be very hard to distinguish when you ask for something or when you try to look something up. Does this exist or did this get generated? So this is where companies like Google get disrupted, because right now you search for something and Google will tell you, hey, I found something I think which is right in a website. But imagine you get a response that's pretty accurate. Now there's no way you can tell, was this generated or was this found? What is also going to happen is what's called hyper personalization. And what I mean by that is when I use a website or a service, it is going to be extremely personalized to me. Right now, what is happening is that websites are, like, for example, personalized country specific. Like you have Google for India, you have Google for, let's say, USA, and you might have some language personalizations. You might have Google in Hindi or like in French or any other language. But it's Google for me, and by knowing a lot about me. For example, it knows that I'm a computer science student, or it knows that I'm a biology student, and it's able to adapt things very well. So that is where we are heading, where anything that's like existing content or anything that's new, it'll be extremely personalized to each individual almost. It's also going to be multimodal once again. Imagine you're watching shows, and imagine those shows are also personalized to you. And I think this is where also it gets really interesting. Let's say I want to watch an English movie, but I say I want Amitabh Bachchan in that movie, right? I don't want that English actor or whoever is there. I want Amitabh Bachchan, and let's say I want Hema Malini. Then I can literally watch an entire movie with Amitabh Bachchan and Hema Malini in those roles. So it's not just going to be limited to websites and other sort of static content. It's also going to be entire movies. And I'm sure you guys are also seeing songs in voices of different singers, those who are with us and also those who are not with us, and also folks from different countries. That's what I mean by, you sort of have to take a double take as, did that singer really sing this song, or did that person really do this, or is this like generated? And where I'm doing research and where I think things will move is not just content, but I think entire applications will start getting built out in real time. And this could be in response to what we want, or this could also be in terms of us giving commands and instructions saying, okay, I need you to build X or Y, which behaves in a certain manner. And I think this is something that I'm working with, and I think this is also going to come about quite soon. And when you talk about entire applications, those applications could be games, they could be websites. So experiences will start adapting to you. You could have a game where you have a unique experience compared to somebody else that's playing the same game, right? So it's already sort of unique, where you have different storylines or you have different options, but imagine it being a lot more interactive, a lot more immersive, based on how you interact with applications or even games in this case. Now, for those who are asking, how is this going to impact me? I would say a lot of focus should be on design and depth. So what I mean by that is, for those who are computer science students, I'd say building will not be a big problem. What you'll have to really be thoughtful about is, how do I design really good systems? And how do I make them really, really effective, right? And how do I know my domain really well? It's not just going to be about computer science. So, and for the folks on non-tech, I think it's going to be a lot of opportunities, because now you're not limited by your knowledge. You could go out to these systems and say, let's say, for example, I want to build the next Flipkart, or I want to build the next Swiggy, but I want it to have certain features. Now, right now, you need developers, you need to know a lot to be able to do that. But given a really good idea, if you understand your domain really well, you can do quite a bit. I mean, your limitations are going to go away. You're not going to be dependent on others as much. And there's a lot more that you can do. And I believe what this brings to everybody is accessibility. Technology is going to become more and more accessible, more than what it is right now. And what's going to start happening is these systems will start being more aware of the real world through what are called oracles. or oracles, and I think Abhishek can also talk about oracles. These are nothing but systems which give accurate information about the real world. These could be stock markets, these could be flight details of flights, these could be things like weather conditions in certain regions, traffic conditions. And through this information, they'll become more and more aware of the real world out here. They'll also start having the potential to affect change. And this could be by optimizing. So for example, given traffic conditions are such and such, they might advise you, hey, you could do this differently, or you could plan your day in a different way. Or they could be more direct, where, I mean, I'm assuming that at some point robotics will come in, where you will really have like smart robots that are able to do a lot more than what we're able to do right now. And like I said, building things is going to become easy. It's not going to be as hard as it is today. Even learning how to build things is going to become a lot easier. But building great things is where it's key, where that will require skill and effort. And that is where even though things can build all of these things really easily, we still have to spend effort to polish them, to make sure they're good, to make sure that they're accurate, like I mentioned, with the issues that these things do come up. They'll make it easier, but not easy. And I also want to point out to what I said first, where a lot of people thought that AI will first get into what computers do best, which is precise things, accurate things. And it'll probably touch things like art and where we need imagination the last. But it flipped. It went into creative things first. And once again, things which need to be accurate and precise, it's still sort of struggling and getting there. But I think it'll get there. And that's where you have like the conversions of these two things to build really great things. And because of this, I think technology will touch most parts of human life. I mean, I don't think, or I'm not worried about jobs going away, especially when it comes to technology, or people having to wonder what to do now, because it makes it so easy to build things. I think we are going to see a lot more. And just remember that whenever something becomes easier or cheaper, it also spreads a lot more. It also creates new opportunities. So I would also tell people, like, think about what you can do with this, how you can leverage this, how you can make the most of this opportunity. And I think it's a good thing also. Like, for example, in the what Muniji is also saying, like, play to your strengths, right? What are the inherent skills I have? What am I good at? And I think the technology that's coming up right now will help me be much, much better in that domain. And ideally, sort of take us out of like most people wanting to be computer engineers, right? Besides the passions that we have. But imagine if we could follow our passions and also, build something meaningful in that direction. And I think that's where this is taking us. Yeah. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. And
yeah, sure. I think thank you for first off sharing the depth. I think a lot of people know AI at a superficial level, and even getting a brief conversation to that level gives some context to what AI really is. But I'm going to double click what Shoaib is saying, right? Like, first of all, let's all understand that AI is not a vertical technology; it's a horizontal technology, right? What it means, horizontal technology, that it's going to touch every industry. I see questions where people are asking, is it for commerce, or is it for biotech, or is it for medical, or it's going to touch literally every single, industry where intelligence is required, where intelligent decision making is required, right? So we all have to understand that no matter which field you come from, AI is going to start getting adopted to make decisions. Now, when I say horizontal, I just want to clarify what I mean by that is, for example, an MRI scanner or an X-ray machine is a vertical technology used in hospitals for a specific purpose and used in medical field only. But a horizontal technology means it will touch more than one technology, more than one subject or more than one industry in adoption and value creation. So, Shoaib, again, thank you for touching that. I'm seeing a lot of comments, and I'm seeing people asking questions about jobs, internships, talking about like what students should be doing in their careers. So and we will answer those questions. And even law. I mean, I'm just seeing a question saying, what is law chat GPT? It's like, again, if you have to make a decision, I mean, this technology will touch that domain now, sooner or later, but it's going to happen. Now, let's do this in two parts. We will open up for the questions, Shoaib, in about 5 minutes. I just want to talk about a little framework for young people to think about how they should think about careers. Okay, I'm going to ask 2 questions. I'm going to give you 3 steps, and I'm going to give you 2 takeaways about thinking about their careers. And Shoaib, feel free to add to that. I know we have Alok on the call somewhere, and Alok obviously is also a great mentor. So Alok, feel free to chip in. And then we open up for the questions to answer more specific questions for the rest of the group. So before we dive into that, I want to tell you that our perspective here, my perspective here is coming from after experiencing 30,000 students, from high school, that is 12th grade, to undergraduate students. And we are helping them get internships, get jobs, and getting them industry ready, right? Now, and please feel free to ask any questions. And just in case your question is not answered, my team will collect the questions, answer it, and circulate it within this community so that you have all your questions answered. Now, the 2 questions I have for all of you, and anybody who has an answer, or everybody should have an answer, can raise a thumb in the chat. The first question: how many people know what they want to do in life? How many people don't know what they want to do in life? If you don't know, raise a thumb. That's me, by the way, right? If you don't know, please raise a thumb, because then you're in the right place. Question number 2, how many people want to be rich? If you want to be rich, raise a hand, show a thumbnail in the chat window, because you're in the right place. We're not selling any scheme, but we're talking about a framework of how to think about life, right? Yeah, see, there you go. So now I want you to remember 3 steps. People say, what is your passion? Discover your passion to find your best job. I don't think it's very easy to discover what your passions are, especially at an early stage. So step number 1 is you need to discover what your personality is. When I say personality, what I mean is what are the problems that you like to solve on a daily basis, what you like to do and what you don't like to do, right? What do you like to go shopping, or do you like to sit at home? Do you like to work alone? Do you like to work with people? Figure out your personality. Step number 1. Step number 2 is then find, once you have a collection of, things that you like to do, put that in a framework and talk to some mentor like me, or, send us a question, and let's find out what's the job that has 90% of these, call it habits, call it personality traits matching to yours. It's like, I'm giving you a very silly example, but let's say when people are getting married, they do this Kundli match where they check how many, points meet, right? It's like that. Like, you basically are saying this particular job has these many my personality types, personality traits that are included, and I will be super happy if I'm doing, because this matches my personality. And these are the problems I like to solve, and this particular job basically allows me to solve that kind of problems. So that's step number 2. So what I say is work with end in mind. So if you figure out what that is, and it doesn't matter where that job is, that could be in the US, that could be, an investment banker, that could be, but doing that step 1 and step 2 will give you clarity. 1, about yourself, 2, about what you want to do in life and what you will be happy doing in life, because that's what your personality is. Now, 3rd, the most important piece, which Steve Jobs has told to everybody, and I want to echo what he said: have courage to ask for help. If you ask for help, I can tell you 90% of the people you ask for help and you're sincere and your request is legitimate, they will never say no. But here's the part 2 of the 3rd point. Be okay if you get no as an answer. because people say no for their own reasons. You don't know what those are. You don't need to. Just go ask somebody else. So step number 1 is discover yourself. Step number 2, find the job that fits your personality. Step number 3 is have courage to ask for help if you don't know how to get there. And I'm telling you, people will come out, reach out to you, and they will help you in so many ways. A good example is myself. I come from a very, I would say, humble family. I come from, a place where my parents never went to the college. We were the first generation of kids who went to the college. But the only thing I did right was I asked for help and people helped. So remember that. Now, the 2 takeaways I want you to take away from this entire presentation between me and Shoaib is number 1, always drive a Ferrari in your dream town. What does that mean? That no matter what your field of career is, always drive a Ferrari. That means always be on the cutting edge of technology. Because if you're on the cutting edge of the technology and you go to an interview and you say, I know everything about the latest and greatest that is happening in the field, you will get extra brownie points to get a job in your field, right? Imagine like you working on a Ferrari versus you working on a BMW. Who will get a job? The Ferrari guy gets a job because he worked on the latest technology or advanced technology. So same is your career. Your career, it has to be, you need to know what your dream job is and know everything about it. And then technology is the latest Ferrari in town, and you need to know everything about AI and how AI is applicable to your industry, sector, or passion idea that you have. Now, this is about discovering who you are and doing what you want. The second question I asked you about was if you want to be rich. Now, you have to remember this because a lot of people forget that your ideas are worth billions of dollars. Whether it was Facebook, whether it was Instagram, whether it was Airbnb, whether it was everything that you use on your phone that was created in technology, whether it was Microsoft, whether it was Amazon, it all started with an idea. And people like Shoaib, people like Alok, people like me, we always are looking for people who have great ideas that we can invest in, right? And you need to learn how to grow that idea into reality, and with help of people who are out there who are waiting for you to ask help. There are investors who will, but just to kind of give you a perspective, what is your idea worth? At just an idea with nothing in mind, with no product, no team, nothing, in Silicon Valley, your idea is worth $500,000. That is 4 crores in Indian rupees. If you have a good idea, it is worth 4 crores. Because that's what, people will say, okay, I'm going to give you money at 4 crores. So I'm just giving you a perspective on what your ideas are worth, and your ideas can be developed with the help if you ask and reach out to people for help. So if you combine your ideas and if you combine your ambitions with a little bit of help that you can get when you reach out to people, I can tell you, you will be not just rich, but you will also know what you want in life. So that concludes my framework. My team is here on the call. They are helping. They're working on tools and technology that will help students across 8,000 universities to get internships and jobs in emerging technology. So please feel free to reach out. And Alok, we will share our details, and Sneha can again help wherever needed. But let's open up to questions. Unless and until, Shoaib, you have any further comments, we can open up for questions.
So just very briefly, I totally agree with what Abhishek is saying. And I think you should always have like the goal in mind. And you should always ask yourself, okay, what am I doing today? Or what am I thinking of doing tomorrow that'll take me closer to that goal? And I also agree on like being courageous to ask questions and ask for help. Because remember, one thing is you should be curious, right? And curiosity means you're not afraid to ask for questions. You're not afraid to learn more. You're not afraid to, keep doing this exercise over and over again. And last thing I want to add is keep at it, even if you don't get there today, because remember, if you want to win a lucky draw, the easiest thing or easiest way to do it is buy the most number of tickets. So even in life, to get like a lucky draw or get what you want, the most amount of effort, the most number of tries, like different combinations, different ways to get your goal is what's going to get you there. And you're sure to get lucky in one of those attempts.
Excellent. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much.
Sure. Thank you, Yogendra sir. Back to you.
So, no, just here to coordinate for the Q&A. I think you covered broadly most of the areas where we are getting question answers, but I think sometimes they're more specific, or it helps to talk to the particular person. I see somebody logged in with a device named Redmi 8. You've been very curious on asking your question. Redmi 8, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question, I think it's related to careers in how AI will impact careers in CA.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I'm in 12th standard and I want to do CA as my career. So how it will impact my career? I want to know that.
So from what I understand, and this is me speaking to folks who are into legal, for example. I think the way it's going to impact is it's going to make things easier. And the way that people are thinking of using it right now is to look up information and try to find things a lot more easily. Not to replace people, not to replace the functions that people are doing, but just to understand things more and look up things on a case-by-case basis, for example. So even for CAs, I think it's going to be something that you use. So for example, imagine rather than going through pages and pages of reports, getting summaries. Or if you want to cross-check or find out if certain things are there across multiple financial reports, that is something where this will make it much more easier. So something that would have taken you 8 hours to get, you might get it in a few minutes. So I think it's going to make lives easier, which means CAs will become a lot more effective at what they're doing.
Yeah, and
Sir,
one thing I want to add.
Some apps or websites which will do these work?
Yeah, I would in fact ask my team to share the list of names of companies that are building tools using generative AI, where they're trying to improve forensic analysis of accounting and auditing in that field. I'm happy to recirculate and get back with this information. We will do that.
Okay,
No worries.
sir.
Yep.
Okay, sir.
Right. Then we have somebody logged in with device name OnePlus CPH2467. I think you had a doubt while Abhishek was elaborating on careers, how to prepare towards that, etc. You can unmute and share your question. Please share your name as well.
Yeah, hi sir. I'm speaking Shubham here. My full name is Shubham Jain. I'm currently working in TCS Mumbai as a Linux administrator. So I wanted to ask sir, how can I switch my career into AI? Because for getting project into IT companies, they ask about project experience. Means they ask, have you worked on AI or not? So yeah, so can you please help in this part?
So I know that in a lot of places they will ask for experience in any domain, but what I would say is don't wait for somebody's permission or blessing. I'd say get your hands into it, like get hands-on, get a feel for it. I mean, ChatGPT is something that a lot of people can use, at least with GPT 3.5. So I'd say start getting used to it. Second, I'd say is look for open source projects and try to contribute, because that will help you build up your experience and also showcase it out there, saying, hey, look, this is what I've worked on. This is what I've contributed towards. And I think the more you start building that up, the more understanding and depth that you get as well. And this is a little interesting exercise my friend used to do. He works at Apple. He would learn a new topic. He would apply for job interviews just to check, acha, is my understanding good? Have I learned enough? And is there something more I need to learn, which is, which I don't know about? So he would do interviews on a regular basis, not because he's looking for a job, but just to understand where am I placed, what is happening out there, and just to engage with people and sort of test his knowledge and also understand new opportunities that are coming up.
Thanks, sir, for clearing the doubt. Yeah, sir. Thanks.
Sure, very interesting advice, because very similar thing I heard from my CEO as well. He advised me saying, once you complete 1 year in the company, go for an interview, not with the intent to switch, but just to see where you're placed and what you should be learning more. Well, Abhishek, some of the questions which I think I can summarize, people have asked in different words, etc. But I think, how can we prepare for being an AI expert in technology? Any basic courses, let's say, which you would suggest that people should do before they become experts into, say, one particular area of AI?
I would say that the entire field is in a state of flux. It's not like what is there today is going to be the same for a year. I mean, what's happening, even in months or weeks, so much is changing. So I'd say, more than relying on a course, what I would advise is check it out yourself, play with it, try to also, I mean, Twitter is a great example. You can also see what other people are doing with it. And you can also check Reddit. You can also check Hacker News on updates on, what's happening, what is coming about. Because if this was something where things are settled and we know, okay, acha, this is not going to change for a good amount of time, then I think it makes sense to invest in courses. Because if you do invest in courses and let's say a few months down the line, everything is changed again, right? Then it'd be like once again not being current and up to date. I mean, basic courses can be taken up, but I'd say try to get your hands dirty with like playing with it, working with it, sort of understanding what you can do with it.
No, absolutely, and I'll second what Shoaib is saying. Get your hands dirty. Do hackathons. Participate in hackathons. Even if you don't code, you don't need to code. Just be part of this entire process of building a team. Helping with the team, thinking of the employers are looking at for practical skills. How do you, I mean, I'm speaking to so many people on a daily basis. And the companies like Amazon and everybody else, they're basically saying, we want people who have good critical reasoning skills. We want people who are problem solvers. They're not saying people who have, bachelor's degree in computer science. They're saying, yes, if it's a technical job, there is a technicality required, but ultimately they prefer people who have high critical reasoning skills, high problem solving skills, and they have done something more practical to prove and demonstrate their ability at a skill level. So I would say, do more practical, get your hands dirty, and don't be worried about whether you are a technical person or not, because all the tools are now almost no code, low code, status. So it's very easy to get your hands dirty today.
Thanks, Abhishek. One question stroke comment. So Samriddhi Jain is with us from the chat. She shared her initial perspective on artificial intelligence, which she describes as development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. That was her take on it. Mm-hmm. And then she had a further question that she wants to be an entrepreneur. So how can she use AI in establishing a tech company, let's say?
She also had one more question, right? On brief on designing part for CS students in AI.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'll just elaborate on design a little bit, right? When I talk about computer science students, and I think they will get it more, we have essentially been taught mostly object-oriented programming. We've been taught different kinds of programming, right? But there's a lot more out there. And I believe that certain types of programming are very, very much appropriate for what's happening right now. One example I'll give you is functional programming. So if somebody is familiar with that, in functional programming, you have different functions that you can compose together. So it's essentially nothing but building blocks that you can arrange and rearrange. So Samriddhi, imagine you have to make your own startup or you have to make your own product. Right now, what we do is we code things from scratch. We don't think about reuse. But imagine you break down your application into functions. And what these AI systems can do is they can now compose rearrange those functions to get you a desired result. And the more well you design this, the faster you can build a product faster than anybody else. So imagine, to add a new feature, people might take weeks and months. But if you have designed things really well, you can do it in a day. And imagine with that kind of speed, with that kind of design, how many other people are going to beat you? Right? So this is where I'm saying it requires you to understand functional programming in this example very well. A few more examples I can tell you about is try to look into rule-based programming. That's another approach where what's happening with AI, again, has a lot of applications over there. If you look into rule-based programming, again, you will also start seeing, okay, acha, I can use this, I can leverage this. There's also what's called flow-based programming. So besides what we've been taught, unfortunately, which is like, hey, you can learn this and you can apply this in industry, a little bit more depth, you'll understand that there are so many different ways to do programming, so many designs out there. And it's about using these designs right now versus earlier. They might not have that much relevance, but now they do. So I think the more you explore and go deeper like this, the more you'll be much better than most of the other folks out there. Everybody is trying to write an entire application code, but you're like, nay, I've got my building blocks. I know I can compose them, I can rearrange them, and I can get so many things done just by them.
Thanks, Shoaib.
Thank you so
I think
much.
maybe we'll take a couple of questions more because we need to be conscious of the time as well. Sorry, somebody had a question on the chat, I guess. Or not. So I will take something which has come in the comments. I think 2-3 people asked this more about the negative side of AI. I think the questions are of two nature. One is probably about misuse. So is AI bad? And the other was, which you briefly touched upon, but maybe you can elaborate a bit more. Is AI going to take away the jobs?
Okay. So on the first one, can AI be dangerous? Yes. But always remember, it's ultimately a tool. And, just like how, for example, we can use a knife to cook food, to feed so many people, right? To essentially, let's say, if you're a carpenter, build things that people can use, right? Sharp objects can be used in ways that are very beneficial, but they can also be used for harm. If you take the example of fire, fire does burn, but it is also essential. We use it to warm ourselves. We use it to cook food. Entire industries, our energy is based on that. So I'd say rather than looking at this as potentially dangerous, think of it as a tool. What matters is who is using it and the intent. So obviously the intent can be bad and outcome obviously will be bad. But just like everything else, if you use this tool for benefit, I think it has massive implications for so many people and so much benefit, like some of them that I mentioned, that you can leverage it for. Second, with regards to job, I'd say, like, think of it this way, right? In India, for the longest time, computers did not come into banking. Because the worry was that if computers come into banking, a lot of banking folks will lose their jobs. But the opposite happened. People didn't lose their job. More and more branches opened up. The number of people employed in banking today is unimaginable before computers came in to India to be in the banking sector. And now if you tell folks working at the bank, hey, we'll take these computers away, go back to how you were doing things, everybody's going to cry out and say no. And I'll give you another example. For the longest time in India, we didn't bring in construction machines because the worry was it's going to affect labor. People are going to lose jobs. Laborers are going to lose jobs. But what happened? More building, more infrastructure, the kind of development that you've seen in the country. Now it's hard to find, people who can, skilled people who can sort of help build things. So what I would say is what this is going to do is it's going to elevate what we're able to do, what we're able to create, right? And the important thing is to also elevate our learning, become better, right? And see how to use this, just like how we have figured out how to use so many of these other things. And I think with the kind of, I'd say, human resource capital that we have, with the kind of folks that we have in the country, and the kind of things that we have at our disposal right now, I mean, there's a lot of endless possibility, especially like I mentioned, language hopefully also will not be a limitation anymore. I'm hoping somebody builds things where all sorts of education and knowledge will be accessible for people regardless of language. So imagine the kind of things that can come up.
Yeah, totally agreed on that, sure. I think on the chat, I see 2 questions. I'll probably extend it just to those. Anvi, you have a hand raised, and then last, probably Dr. Pankaj had a question put on. I would request you also to come online and ask. So maybe first start with Anvi.
Hello, you just said that you can elevate your learning skills through AI. I have the same question regarding it, that how can we use AI to be ahead of everyone around us? As you know, if we want to do something, we just go to AI and ask like how we can do this. But somewhere it is also blocking us a creative thinking and the logical block, that because we are just relying on AI and seeing its opinion and then creating our opinion. We are not doing some kind of research, we are just relying on its fact and doing it. So how can we do that in a better way, and how can we progress it?
Okay. I'd say maybe think about the kind of questions to ask, right? If I use AI for the how questions, I think it's a very good use of time. So that way, if I ask, how can I do X? That'll be, like I said, it'll be a set of steps. It'll be a set of things that I need to do. Where we should get better is why questions, or what should I be doing this, right? Why should I choose this direction? And this is where, like Abhi also said, critical thinking comes in. Like, if I have to take a decision, what should I think about to take that decision? Under what circumstances should I take that decision? So I think if we use AI for saving our time, learning about the hows, right? While at the same time, think in terms of framework. Rather than asking it a question, ke, acha, what should I do in this scenario? Maybe ask a little better, like, what are the things I should think about, or what are the considerations I should check to take a good decision in this particular domain or for this particular problem? And why is this better than something else? So I think using it to go through a lot of options, right? Go through a lot of different combinations will help us learn a lot. So think of it as how you would talk to a person, and think of it, like being a very curious person, where you keep asking a question, where you keep trying to understand, is this it? So I think doing that will help you learn a lot versus just asking a question and then just taking a response and being, acha, theek hai. Don't use it to make choices for you. Use it to help understand, am I making the right choice? And do I know enough to make this right choice? What might I be missing? Because one area where this is good is you can't go and tell Google, give me search results for something I don't know. Whereas here, at least you can ask and it'll actually probably tell you, okay, acha, these are things that you should consider. You can say, I know 1 and 2 and 3, and then maybe it'll also tell you 4 and 5 and 6. There, I think it helps in learning.
Thank you.
Dr. Pankaj Singh.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Pankaj Singh and working in hospital. It has been a very nice session, especially for some non-technical guy. My question is, like in health care industry, we see a lot of advertisements on Facebook that you, as a doctor, you should know about how to use ChatGPT or AI. But many times these advertisements are not trustworthy. So do you have any suggestion, first of all, whether like doctors or other healthcare workers, they should know about how to use AI? And if it is so, do we need to do some course to know how to use AI or ChatGPT?
So once again, I think best thing to do is just sign up in OpenAI and start using ChatGPT. I think just getting a feel for that will help. However, given the medical field, and that's why I was talking about fine-tuning in specific domains, it would be a good exercise to find something that is a lot narrower and more specific to the medical domain. And I believe they're also asking you to learn about this because it's probably going to become more and more useful, like I said, in terms of finding things, in terms of understanding certain things. And this is also where, like I said, rule-based programming comes in, where I'm seeing systems where if you say that, hey, patient is having symptom 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it's able to sort of give you options. Okay, I think it might be this range of things. And where I think it might be useful is coming across exceptions, where it might not be very common. Where let's say uh, something gets published in a journal, which is very recent. So I know you're in the medical industry, and I mean you're a doctor, and doctors keep themselves up to date by reading journals, by reading case studies and things that happen. So because there's so much coming in, I think this will help in sort of pinpointing and maybe helping you say, okay, acha, such and such research got published, might be relevant to this case, and here's how, and then you can take a call. I think that way it's going to be useful. But having said that, ChatGPT is very broad, but I think Abhi can help with finding out something that's a lot more specific to the medical industry. But at least in my
No, I
question,
I totally agree. Doctor, I think I always recommend when specialists ask us this question that I always say, first of all, you cannot boil the ocean, right? It's always good to keep up with the trend, but when it comes to specific specialist type of jobs, I always recommend look at more narrow search. One is obviously you want to have relevance, to your industry and your job. Like how are people, what relevant information about AI there is on the internet that is relevant to medical industry. Number one. Number two is application. Like what are the applications that people are applying to? And last, I think the utility is very important, because let's say if you are trying to grow in your career and you're trying to move up into a bigger and better hospitals, I'm just taking hypothetical examples. But if you're trying to do that, then you should be able to demonstrate that you are either able to use these skills, or at least the applications of these skills in that environment, because that is going to be a huge factor in people's mind to use that as a criteria for judgment. Now, again, relevance, application, and utility. I would keep these three sequence in mind and apply learning on regular basis, basically. So relevance, application, utility, and repeat would be the framework I recommend. I mean, Shoaib, let me know if there's anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And
Yeah.
Little bit of segue. I remember somebody also asked, like, how is all this relevant to the like biotech or biology field? Just like I said, it's all about finding sequences. I believe there's also research where people are trying to find drugs and proteins that are once again hyper-personalized, very specific to the patient that you're trying to treat, given their history. So I think this will become more relevant, where I guess right now we are used to prescribing broad spectrum of medications, which might be generally applicable, but not specifically. Like I'll give you an example. My daughter, when she was 2 years old, was diagnosed with pneumonia, but then broad spectrum antibiotics were not really working, and it takes 2 days for the culture report to come, and she was not getting any better. But I'm thankful to God that we found a doctor who was able to, I guess, with experience, having read a lot, he was able to deduce that it might be a particular strain, and he's prescribed a very specific antibiotic. The moment he did that, within half an hour, she started responding, and she was much, much better. And when the report came, it turned out he was right. So I think these kind of things highlight, sometimes knowing those specifics can actually have an impact. And I think the more this happens, obviously, the more it is better for everybody.
Very glad to hear, Shoaib, and we wish her the best of health always. I hear, and I'm sure, Shoaib, Abhishek, you must be seeing on the chat window also, people are sharing very kind, genuine feedback. It's been great. I would request again all the participants, if you've been happy with the session today, please drop in the chat window or show your thumbs up for Shoaib and Abhishek. Just before we close it, I would also share or add on to what you were mentioning, Abhishek and Shoaib. I mean, artificial intelligence is probably much broader, and we need to find specific solution to the situation. One similar example from my field, I work in pharmaceutical industry with Cipla Pharma, Our company was recently working on a pilot where the program was so specific. You work on respiratory products, and you know how much each of that particular respiratory inhaler will have, how many dosages will it have. So for patients who are based in remote areas where the delivery is not so frequent, they started tracking when it got delivered to patient and the next stock availability nearest to them or to their doorsteps can be made available based on that analysis of the whole data. In fact, going one step forward, they were thinking of doing this through drones. So things can be really specific, really broad. So thank you very much again, Abhishek and Shoaib. It's been great talking to you. I'm sure there would be many more areas to cover. There were some questions, I think, which were left unanswered, but we will try to probably cover those in one of the follow-up sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us, and all the best to everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhishek. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.